What happens when the crown princess of the royal family comes face to face with the very press that is gunning hard for them? An overconfident journalist rudely approached Princess Kate and mocked her for wearing a cross. Little did he expect the brilliant response from Kate, a response so shocking that it left everyone in silence. It happened at Buckingham Palace on a recent spring afternoon, during a rare open day, where guests from various communities, including children, were invited to spend time with members of the royal family. The atmosphere was light and welcoming, with families exploring the grounds, enjoying refreshments, and taking in the occasion with quiet excitement. The Prince and Princess of Wales were present, moving through the gathering with warmth and ease. Kate was wearing a soft blue coat, her calm presence drawing people in. As she stopped to greet guests, share smiles, and exchange a few kind words with children and parents alike. That was when it happened. A journalist named Daniel Harper was standing a few feet away, watching the princess's every move. He held a microphone in one hand and a notebook in the other, but the look on his face suggested he wasn't here to simply report. Harper had built a reputation for his sharp, critical takes on the royal family, and that day, he had his eyes set on the Princess of Wales. As Kate paused near a refreshment table, where children were gathered, with plates of pastries and juice, she bent slightly to chat with a young girl. The moment was genuine, lighthearted, easy to miss in its simplicity. But Harper's gaze was fixed elsewhere. He had noticed the delicate, golden cross the princess wore beneath the soft fold of her coat. The journalist smiled suddenly. He stepped forward and spoke, in a voice loud enough for bystanders to hear. "A cross in this day and age," he said mockingly as he shook his head in disbelief. Kate was nearly thrown off guard by the sudden question. She looked up to see the journalist looking at her, with a microphone and notebook in his hands. Harper continued with his mockery. "Isn't that a bit outdated? Your Royal Highness, I thought royals were meant to lead and guide the country. So why flaunt something so backward?" The gathering fell into a hush. The cheerful murmur of conversation gave way to an uneasy silence. As heads turned, all eyes were on Kate, but no one expected what she did next. Without hesitation, the Princess of Wales stepped away from the children and calmly approached the journalist. There was no flinch, no flash of anger. Her face remained composed, her stride steady. Prince William, who stood nearby speaking with a group of guests, had paused mid-sentence. Many in the crowd turned toward him, waiting for a reaction, but Kate subtly brushed her fingers against the strap of her blue coat, a silent signal one William recognized instantly. She intended to address this moment herself. A woman from a local community group, one of the invited guests, watched the scene unfold from a few feet away. She had just been speaking to the princess moments earlier, beaming with gratitude. Now her expression hardened, her arms crossed, as she narrowed her gaze at the journalist, clearly disapproving of the intrusion on what was meant to be a celebration of kindness and connection. Kate finally spoke in a steady and measured voice. "Do you mock everyone who wears a symbol of their faith, or just royals?" Harper ignored the question with a smile. He had the princess right where he wanted. Kate remained poised, but the air had shifted. The crowd sensed it. This was no longer just a casual remark, but a challenge. "Faith is not outdated," Kate said in a calm but firm voice. "It's personal, and for many, including myself, it's a source of strength and kindness." Harper let out a dry chuckle, shaking his head. "Strength? That's a nice fairy tale answer. But let's be honest. Where was that strength when you were lying in a hospital bed, wondering if you'd make it?" A murmur rippled through the crowd. It was a cruel jab cutting deep. Prince William's jaw tightened, but Kate stood her ground. Harper smirked, pressing on. "I mean, really, Your Royal Highness, you had cancer, you had surgery, and yet, here you are talking about faith, as if it actually did something. Did your cross heal you? Did praying make the tumor disappear? Or was it science, modern medicine?" And a team of doctors who actually saved you. The guests bristled. Some looked at Kate in concern, while others glared at Harper. A few members of the royal security detail moved instinctively, but Kate raised a hand ever so slightly, enough to stop them. They stepped back, watching closely. Everyone was waiting to see how she would respond. Kate tilted her head slightly and continued speaking. "Let me ask you something, Mr. Harper." She gestured toward the people around her. "When our communities needed support during the pandemic, during economic hardship, who stepped forward first?" She nodded gently toward a group of community volunteers and youth leaders nearby. It was churches, faith-based groups, neighborhood centers, and people moved by something greater than themselves. They didn't ask for credentials. They didn't judge backgrounds. They simply showed up. Are we to dismiss compassion, charity, and hope just because they're rooted in faith? The crowd nodded, murmuring in agreement. But Harper was unfazed. He chuckled again, shaking his head. "Oh, come on, princess. That's a clever deflection. But it doesn't answer the real question." His voice took on a mocking edge. "You say faith gives you strength. Well, let's talk about that." He narrowed his eyes. "Your brother, James Middleton, has struggled with depression for years. He's been open about it. Where was faith then? Did it cure him? Did it stop him from nearly hitting rock bottom?" The crowd fell completely silent. It was a direct personal attack, and it left an uncomfortable tension in the air. Even those who disliked Harper's tone couldn't deny the weight of the question. Kate's expression didn't waver. If anything, she looked disappointed. "Faith does not promise a life without suffering, Mr. Harper. It never has." She took a small step closer, her voice steady. "What it does offer is strength to endure, to fight, to keep going." She glanced down at the simple gold cross resting against her collarbone. "This is not just a piece of jewelry to me." Harper folded his arms, unimpressed. "So you're saying faith didn't stop your suffering, but it helped you endure? That's a pretty weak endorsement. What's the point exactly?" Kate exhaled softly. "A year ago, I faced something I never expected." She placed her hand lightly over the cross. "When I was diagnosed with cancer, I had to undergo surgery. During those long days of uncertainty, I struggled both physically and emotionally." The weight of her words settled over the crowd. Kate lifted the cross gently. "During that time, a dear friend, a bishop, gave me this. He told me that no matter what happened, I was not alone, that I was loved, and that I was stronger than I believed." She let the words sink in before turning back to Harper. "You asked where faith was when I was in pain. It was right here, giving me strength, when I had none, reminding me that I could keep going, that my story wasn't over." The guest murmured again. But this time it wasn't in discomfort. It was in admiration. But Harper wasn't backing down. "All of this proves one thing," he said. "Faith is an outdated, meaningless concept in a modern country like ours. As a public figure, you're misleading the good people of this nation." Kate turned slightly and gestured to the guests gathered around. Among them stood a middle-aged woman in a headscarf, speaking softly with a young boy nearby. A man in a dark suit wore a small Star of David pinned to his lapel. A few in the crowd had crosses tucked into their collars, or bracelets etched with verses, quiet personal emblems of belief. The princess's soft smile never wavered. "Look at the people around you," she said gently. "Do you believe faith is outdated for them too?" The murmurs grew louder. Harper shifted slightly, and the confident edge in his voice began to falter. Kate let the silence stretch for a moment. Then, with the same quiet dignity she always carried, she spoke, not in anger, not in defense, but with the certainty of someone who knew exactly who she was. Harper still thought he was on a roll. He believed he had backed Kate into a corner, that she was scrambling to justify herself. The momentary silence to him, it was hesitation. The murmurs in the crowd sounded like doubt creeping in. He smirked, ready to press forward to regain control. "I'm sure the people agree with me when I say, faith has no role to play in our progress today." He began, his voice rising with confidence. "If faith is so powerful, you won't have gotten cancer. As a royal, you should be more careful than what you present to the outside world. The words hung in the air. For a moment he thought he had delivered the final blow. His gaze flickered across the crowd, expecting nods of agreement. Just then a teenager near the front scoffed, careful about what, wearing something meaningful. Laughter rippled through the crowd. But it wasn't just amusement, but defiance. Harper blinked, caught off guard. He opened his mouth to speak again, but now voices were rising. He thinks he's making sense. Someone snorted. Yeah, because attacking someone's faith is real journalism. Another person muttered. Harper's hands tightened around the microphone. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was the one exposing outdated ideas. Yet the people weren't standing with him. They were standing against him. And then the final blow came. A little girl no older than 8 cupped her hands around her mouth and called out, "Why are you still here?" The crowd began to laugh as the journalist frowned. The girl frowned right back. "You lost." The boy next to her grinned. "Yeah, you lost. Go home." More voices joined in. "Leave," someone shouted. "Go away," another called. Harper's mind scrambled for a way to take back control, or even a way out. But before he could even form a thought, something small hit his shoulder. It was an apple. Another child picked up a piece of bread and tossed it. "Leave," the chant swelled. Growing louder, Harper took a shaky step back. This wasn't just losing an argument. This was humiliation. His eyes darted around to search for anyone still on his side. But all he found were disapproving stares. The microphone trembled in his grip. Before he finally lowered it, his shoulders slumped as he turned. He muttered something under his breath. But no one cared anymore. Kate stood there, still calm, still composed, and delivered her final brilliant lines. In a truly multicultural society, we don't silence differences. We respect them. This isn't just about religion. It's about freedom, dignity, and the quiet strength that carries people through their darkest hours. Whether we wear a cross, a crescent, a star, or nothing at all, what matters is the compassion we show, the lives we lift, and the hope we refuse to surrender. She paused, then added, her voice steady and sure, "You asked where my faith was when I had cancer." Her eyes locked on his. It was there in every moment. "I chose kindness over bitterness. In every nurse who prayed with a patient, in every stranger who sent a message of love. My faith was never for display. It was how I survived." Then, after a beat, she added quietly, "Perhaps the real question is, why a simple cross troubles you so much." Mr. Harper, her gaze didn't waver. "It seems to me that what you mock is a reflection of something unresolved in you. Maybe it's not faith you despise, but your own vulnerability. Maybe you're projecting your fears onto others because you haven't yet found peace with yourself." She took a breath, soft but certain. "And for what it's worth, I truly hope your soul finds the light." The air around them seemed to shift. The guests, sensing the weight of her words, fell completely silent. It was as if the entire palace grounds held its breath, waiting for Harper to reply. Harper opened his mouth, then closed it. He felt the weight of their gazes and the sting of their judgment. He had failed. With his head down, he made for the door. What no one knew in that moment was that Harper's hostility came from his broken past. Years earlier, he had lost his wife and youngest daughter in a devastating car crash. One moment they were driving home from a quiet weekend in the countryside, and the next their world shattered. A drunk driver had veered into their lane. His wife was killed instantly. His daughter, just 6 years old, was rushed to the hospital, clinging to life. In those endless nights beside her hospital bed, Harper prayed, he begged, he pleaded with a God he barely knew. He offered anything: his career, his future, even his sanity, if it meant she would open her eyes again. But there was no miracle, no answer, just silence, and then she too was gone. The grief was unbearable, but the rage was worse. He didn't just lose his family, he lost the very idea of hope. Faith, once a quiet, distant concept, now felt like a cruel joke. In his mind, there could be no God, no divine mercy, no meaning. What kind of faith lets a child die? So he turned away from it all, hardened himself, buried the man he used to be. And in the years that followed, he found a strange comfort in tearing down others who still believed. Ridiculing faith gave him control. It gave his pain a target. Mocking symbols like the cross or words like hope helped him mask his own wounds. It became his armor and his weapon. And so, when he saw the Princess of Wales wearing that simple golden cross, he didn't see a woman of quiet belief. He saw everything he had lost and everything he couldn't forgive. Before Harper could walk out the door, Prince William stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Like my wife said," he told him, "I hope you find healing." Then he reached out, took the journalist recording device without hesitation, and handed it to a nearby guard. "Make sure that's destroyed," he said quietly. Security moved in. Harper didn't protest. Whatever fire he had arrived with was long gone. As things settled, a small girl stepped forward from the crowd, holding a single white rose. She walked up to Kate and looked up at her shyly. "This is for being brave," she said. Kate knelt, accepted the rose with a soft smile, and touched the girl's shoulder gently. "Thank you," she whispered. William was already standing nearby. He didn't say much, but the way he looked at Kate said everything. His expression was full of quiet pride, a small nod sealing what words couldn't. And though the recording device was gone, someone must have caught it on a phone. Clips of that moment have only recently started to leak. Brief flashes of Kate's voice, her poise, the way the crowd fell silent. Those who've seen it say it's unforgettable. They say she didn't just defend a belief. She embodied grace, courage, and conviction. What began as a quiet palace event became something more. A moment people didn't just witness, but felt. What do you think about Kate's brilliant response? Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.